And now it's time for Fabulous Film and Friends. Just my chair. This week on Fabulous Film and Friends, we are pointing our compasses southward, the land of doom and gloom, Australia. Don't be fooled by the likes of Paul Hogan, Yahoo Serious and Thor. Underneath that loopy, whimsical Australian charm lies an unparalleled, grim and sober, yet prophetic outlook about life on Earth, as evidenced by 1971's Walkabout, directed by Nicholas Roeg, though full disclosure, he's an Englishman, who shepherded Jenny Agutter, Luke Roeg, David Gulpilil, and John Meillon to cinematic prominence. Then we have 1982's The Road Warrior, aka Mad Max 2, directed by George Miller and starring Mel Gibson, Bruce Spence, Kjell Nillson, Max Phipps, Vernon Wells, Mike Preston, Arkie Whitely, Vigginia and Emil Minty. Then topped off with The Road, directed by Australian native John Hillcoat and starring Viggo Mortenson, Kodi Smit-McPhee, Charlize Theron, Garrett Dillahunt, the late Michael Kenneth Williams, Pearce and Robert Duvall. My guests today are once again the series regulars who have both the stomach and gloomy disposition to take solace in rewatching these films back to back to back to back. Roseanne Caputi and Alex Robertson. Alex, warm us up with a bit of Nicholas Roeg in 1970s Soho, pitching the skinny dipping scene to then 15-year-old Jenny Agutter. I'll play Jenny Agutter.
Well, now listen, Jenny. What I see is a return to Eden, so to speak, when we can release the fetters of civilization, and that includes all your knickers and clothes. What do you say, Jenny? Hey, you game?
Okay, silly ho, sounds good.
Wow, that's an amazing Jenny Agutter.
Okay, before we go on a walkabout of our own, the synopses. In Walkabout, a perfectly ordinary pair of upper-class English siblings get lost in the Australian outback after their father takes them for a picnic, then tries to murder them. They look to be perfect candidates for either heat stroke and or vulture food until they are rescued by a young Aboriginal teen out on his walkabout. The Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, raises the stakes of the original Mad Max and picks up the story with ex-cop Max Rokatansky, traveling the barren, hellish post-apocalyptic highways and stumbling upon an evil road gang led by a brute named Lord Humongous. Humongous is hell-bent on invading a compound belonging to a group of civilized and intelligent settlers who have built an oasis around the last of the oil wells and have running lights and supplies. Losing numbers and their morale under the constant attacks of Humongous, the settlers hatch a plan to escape the vermin on wheels and to flee to the coast with their oil in tow. With the help of Max and a pilot called the Gyro Captain, the settlers are given a slim chance to survive. In The Road, a man risks all to protect his boy and teach him survival skills in another bleak and nightmarish future where all plant and animal life is gone and the dominant humans subsist through murder and cannibalism. All right, Roseanne Caputi, this was your idea to pit these three films against each other. Let's rate them.
Well, again, I didn't think about pitting them against each other so much as their accompaniments. So I have to say Walkabout first, then Mad Max, then The Road. The Road Warrior, excuse me.
No,
Mad Max.
at this point, now
Can we just call it Mad Max?
We've got to go. Now we go back to its original Aussie roots because people have accepted the world. So it's now Mad Max 2. But I'm going to call it The Road Warrior. So
yeah,
right.
The preferred name, I guess, is Mad Max 2.
Right, I look it up now and it's Mad Max 2.
Yeah, but to me, it will always be The Road Warrior. It will always be The Road Warrior. But anyway, Go ahead, Alex Robertson. Let's give it the old college rating. I don't know what the hell. That didn't make any sense. But go ahead. Give it the college rating.
I give Walkabout 3 boobies. Totally.
Right.
No. I gotta say Mad Max, The Road Warrior at number 1. The Walkabout at number 2, and The Road at a very close third. But I think for me, The Road Warrior is like a clear runaway, just in terms of craft and story. And something that does have this layer of hope underneath.
Are you going to let me talk?
No.
You've just been talk. Let me get my ratings in.
Yeah, let's see. Let's hear it, nerd.
Mine's the same as yours. All right, you were saying?
I'm not saying anything. Let's continue. So we agree. So Road Warrior, Walkabout, in the Road. Okay.
Well, let's just say the Road and Walkabout are actually much heavier films, though. Mad Max almost feels like what? Give me an analogy, Roseanne. What's it feel? I know I said it earlier. What?
Well, I said it was like letting Bon Jovi onto our playlist with like Gustav Holst or something. And then you said it was like Gone with the Wind versus 12 Years a Slave.
Correct.
And again, I love Road Warrior for sure. And I was just like, this is one of my favorite movies. This is such an amazing movie. And then I rewatched Walkabout and I'm just like, I remember why I love this movie so much. So anyway, back to you two who agree.
Well, let's get into it, Roseanne Kodi. Why do you love Walkabout so much?
Walkabout to me, even more than The Road, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but the sense of loss at the end of it really is like just too tremendous to ignore, and I can't get over it. Again, for some reason, it's one of the most painful, searing, beautiful movies out there, I think. And again, it's not this subtle thing. Like the imagery is really obvious and it's still well done. Kind of like I would say also with Road Warrior and The Road. It's like these aren't exactly subtle films, but they're all really well done. And I think the loss at the end, there's more, for some reason, it feels like there's more at stake. There's no hope in the end of Walkabout, whereas I feel like there's hope in Road Warrior and The Road.
Well, sure. Does that make it as powerful, though? Just because there's no hope?
To me, it's the most powerful because I guess I think a lot about what it is to live in a society where you constantly have to pretend that your heart isn't broken, that you constantly have to pretend that all these terrible losses that you've suffered, both as an individual and as a society, don't exist. And that's what she's doing.
Isn't that England in a nutshell?
Yes, but tell me a movie that shows it better. Like nothing's better to me than her like stupid ass eyeliner and her husband or boyfriend's boring ass job. And I just think just the inescapable malaise of it is just a sadness too deep for tears. I say it all the time, but I'm like, honestly, watching that movie, it's Wordsworth, it's Keats, it's Blake, it's all the romantic poets to me. That's what they're talking about. It's a song of innocence and experience. That's all I'm going to say. Now, back to you two.
No.
I'm just saying.
No. Hold on. This was all your idea. So let me say, why are these films being thrown in the mix together? Because one film is about just life and nature. The two post-apocalyptic films, one's definitely Australian. So there's a sort of disconnect to your average listener. They're saying, wait a minute, John Hillcoat's film is not a movie about Australia, and then the other film that's about Australia is directed by an Englishman. So the perspective, I'm kind of lying in my intro because obviously Nicholas Roeg is not Australian, and it's about British people.
They all have similar themes. This is all
Lay it
nature.
on us. What are the themes?
Okay. This is the beginning of The Road Warrior. Essentially, sets the stage for all the themes, and again, then you see it echoed in Walkabout, where it breaks the young Aborigines' heart that they're killing all the cattle, just pell-mell for no reason. And so you see this sort of, it's almost like a precursor to then what we experience in Road Warrior and The Road, this abject hostility towards nature and living in opposition to it. And so then you get this, I think they all share like a certain aesthetic as well of just like, what is this to be alive? What is it to want to survive? What does it mean to be a human? Can you be, can you be on a spiritual journey while trying to survive? Again, The Road, I think, is amazing for that. You see what it is to be a father while struggling with the idea of what it is to survive when you don't want to, when he has to remind his son, that he shouldn't say he wants to die, even though all that's happening is the world dying around them, plus the end of his life with his wife, romance, all these things coming together. And I just think each one is in various stages of human existence and social existence.
Alex, you have anything to add to that powerful litany?
Ditto.
Shut up, Alex. Come on.
No. I'm not trying to undermine what you said.
You are.
You gave it a mouthful. No, because I think I have to agree. Where I couldn't articulate, you have pretty much said it so beautifully. So, but I think it's funny because all three movies have this sense of carrying on with life despite the odds. And they just do it in different ways. Mm-hmm. It's funny for Jenny Agutter. It's the fight for survival is to get back to the life she's so used to, which she does, and it's just so very English she is in that sense. That tragic scene. Okay, so full disclosure, I've told Gino this. I saw this movie when I was 13. I snuck in for one reason.
Yep, gotcha.
The Billabong scene, But something about that story did something to my 13-year-old mind, because now I get caught up in the story of David Gulpilil or whatever. I wish I could say his name.
I wish I could say it too. All respect to him.
Yes, all respect to him. He's still alive. That's wonderful. He's an actor, and he's, I'm sure, all sorts of wonderful things. But the scene of him hanging in the tree, no explanation. The second suicide in the movie. The movie's kind of bookended by these two. Yeah. And we don't know how he did it, because it's like he's not hung by the neck. He's just sort of like in this Christ-like position in the tree. Mm-hmm. And just Jenny Agutter's response when she just reaches up and brushes the ants off the chest. Again, I don't think it was a callous move, but something about, I don't know, but it just spoke volumes. You can't articulate it when you're 13, but you kind of understand. And then to have that moment at the very end where now she's assumed the role of the housewife. She's in the position of her mother. And when the husband comes home to talk about all the wonderful things about promotion and this and that and vacations and 2 weeks holiday and blah, 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 she drifts off to the Billabong.
Yeah.
And it was such a gorgeous moment. You understood. That's... Maybe for me, that was like when, you realize that, wow, film really is powerful. It has its own language. Yeah. And the best films do it without explaining. They just do it because they show. And these three movies do that, especially The Road Warrior.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Which I find out from Gino that the original intent for George Kennedy and his partner was to write a movie without dialogue. Like,
George
can
Miller.
You tell this? Or George Miller. Thank you. I always
It'd be very interesting if it was George Kennedy.
Byron Kennedy, George Miller.
George Kennedy.
Confusing. It's confusing, for sure.
By the way, David is dead. He died in 2008.
Oh, okay. That's...
Yes, may he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Yes. I'll forgive him for doing Crocodile Dundee.
Come on. Crocodile Dundee's a classic.
It's fine.
Apparently, it killed his career.
Really?
Why?
Oh, yeah. He actually, he said after Crocodile Dundee, no one called him.
Wow.
He made nothing but money. He had to have made money, right? No?
He did have.
Apparently, after that,
he did have one of the funnier moments in the movie. You can't take me picture. Oh, yeah, because your soul. No, got the lens cap on.
No, he seemed kind of bitter about that movie. But anyway,
he must have been screwed by Paul Hogan, like everybody.
Probably,
like Linda Kozlowski.
Take that, Australians.
There you go. Some Vegemite. Delicious. Good.
But I would say you're right about all these three films and their
wait. Stop the presses. Hold on. I want to break in. I'm wrong. I rate The Road higher than Walkabout, by the way. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I seem to
Sorry.
recall when I made a change midstream, you gave me a hard time.
Nope.
Yeesh.
I get to do whatever I want. It's my show.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. So fine, right. We see a okay.
He's wearing the best after all.
Great.
Well, to me, The Road, a converse to Star Trek V, the worst movie I've seen 50 times. The Road is the best movie I never want to see again. It is just
It's a hard
brutal. It's so painful to watch. Every scene is just mired in sadness, depression, decay, and fear. It's horrifying, but I don't think there's been a better movie that, in a way, if The Road Warrior wasn't so awesome in accomplishing its goals, I'd say The Road is almost a better, like, more terrifying vision of the future than The Road Warrior. I think The Road Warrior overall succeeds on all levels, whereas The Road, it doesn't end in a way that it makes you want to see it again, you know? So, but I just think in terms of a visual presentation of hell, I don't think there's ever been a better movie. You name me a better movie about a hellish future with no hope. Give me one, somebody, please.
I shan't, except The Road Warrior.
The Road Warrior does have hope. The road, the hope is in question.
It's ambiguous for sure.
Yeah,
it is.
And also The Road Warrior, let's face it, has this completely wonderful style. You know, it has all these S&M elements and the weirdness and stuff like that. The Road, just watching watching them unwrap their plastic bag shoes that are over their cardboard tape shoes when Robert Duvall is wearing all his clothes. I'm just like, oh my God, the clothes. The fact that Kodi Smit-McPhee is still wearing Charlize Theron's old hat.
Yeah.
It just breaks my heart the whole time. Yeah. And you know, it's certainly not this sort of this stylish post-apocalyptic world. It's really just like these people are fucking cold and I love it when Viggo Mortensen's like, well, we already are starving.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just think it has
probably the funniest moment in the film.
Oddly,
was that the mirror scene? Was that there was that
no,
scene when he
no,
look, Dad,
they're actually in the tent. I think they're in the
tent. No, they're out by the fire, and he says, we would never eat people if we were starving, right? And Viggo Mortensen says, we're already starving.
We're already starving.
Right.
But I just think the Road Warrior has this audacious style about it.
Sure.
The Road is clearly really committed to this idea of pain, hunger, fear, and cold. And so I think you're right.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of your head. I mean, yes. I sat last night just in terror of every scene. Now, I've seen it twice before. You know, the first time I just watched it and just spine-tingling, bone-chilling fear. Mm-hmm. Then the second time, it was just to show my kids, like, well, this is the way it's going to be. So, you know.
So sharpen your knives and get a taste for the flesh, boy.
Yeah, no, I mean, and then last night, it's late. I went to a potluck. I ate badly. I knew.
Lots of red meat.
I knew I was going to be having a bad night, and of course, I topped it off with The Road, one of the most terrifying films ever made. And if we analyze why is it so terrifying, because we've seen slasher films, we've seen murder, we've seen nihilism, but what is so terrifying is that little glimmer of hope, which is Kodi Smit-McPhee, and that's what makes the film so freaking scary, because that little bit of innocence. It's one thing to chase Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, let me just finish. It's one thing to chase Jamie Lee Curtis or a teenage girl and kill her. It's another thing to have a little boy who there's any number of ways to die. I guess that's what makes it so horrible. You know? Like, it's just the idea of preserving innocence and hope in a world that's completely hopeless that I just find just devastating. Like, it's really like waking up in a concentration camp or in slavery or in hell. It's one of the most profound movies about the end of our lives as I can think of, you know?
Along with being a parent, what it means to, how do you try to keep what you love alive more than anything else in a world where everything is dying, where you're just going to die.
And that's still life. that's still Walkabout,
sure.
right? That's still the Road Warrior.
Absolutely. And one thing I love about both films, honestly, is actually all three films, is that they're entirely unsentimental about children. Kodi Smit-McPhee manages to be hopeful, just like her little brother manages to, forge this relationship with David, without it being irritating and sentimental, where it is just like, no, this is what children bring. But even Viggo Mortensen's like physical relationship with Kodi Smit-McPhee is awesome. He treats him like a dad. He's dragging him all over the place. He's telling him just pull the goddamn cart. It's all unsentimental, which makes it that much more like you have something to lose. And to me, the scariest scene in the movie is when they're in that bomb shelter and they have all that food, because it's actually a moment of respite, and you can't trust that. And the fact that he created that world where you're so tense when things even go slightly okay is masterful.
Yeah. Well, there seems to be an element of Bunyan in there, the Pilgrim's Progress. Isn't that a part of the story? The idea of at some point on the journey, the struggle, finding this respite. Which is like a much welcome respite. But if we stay, we die. Somehow, even though we have all the comforts that we've been missing. Or in Kodi Smit-McPhee's case, you've never really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I love the scene, like, what's that? And when he's drinking the Jack Daniels, can I have some? No.
Right.
But just, all these new experiences for him.
How about that line though? I didn't remember it at all when Viggo Mortensen asks Robert Duvall, "Don't you ever just wish you were dead?" And he was
the luxuries,
He says
wish the luxuries in times like these.
We can't wish for
there.
That's funny. I did clue into that too. I 2 times before I never
there is so much
pointed to that line.
That line is amazing. Yeah,
so much packed into that little.
I don't remember. Is
the
line okay? All 3 of us have read the book. I don't remember that line in the book. Do you remember?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
It's been a decade since I read that book.
If it wasn't, that's a great line.
For sure.
Line.
Yeah.
Well, that and the whole thing about I knew this was coming. Something about even if we knew it was coming, we couldn't do anything about it. Right. What are you going to do?
Right.
I mean, the signs were there.
You knew it was coming, and still you didn't know it was coming, which was like
the best thing about this film is how you don't know what. I'm sorry, Roseanne. Say it.
No, go ahead.
I just think the best thing about this film is we don't know what it is either. Like, was it a nuclear bomb? Was it just a...
We have the hints. The clock stop at 1:17.
Yeah.
Followed by, what is it, the seismic...
Fire on the ridges and the chanting.
It could be an EMP. It could be anything.
Anything.
It could have been anything that caused it. We don't know, but it's just that glowing light when Charlize Theron says, "Why are you taking a bath?" I'm not.
I love that.
It's just a nightmare. The movie is an unmitigated nightmare. It's just from start to finish. Charlize Theron's a nightmare. The idea of your wife just giving up.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
And the way she gives up is so completely real, of just like other families are doing this and talking about, in this just completely realistic way of what it would. I'm like, you don't blame her in a sense, or you understand why she's doing it, but the fact that she just goes out there and does it is its own kind of terrifying.
Well, again, the way that
leaves them.
But watching, realistically, watching that scene, and watching that scene and trying to, put yourself in that position, like what if we find, God forbid, if we ever find ourselves in that position, and the deep love that Viggo Mortensen has for her, to see him breaking down, but the love is so deep that he knows I can't stop her.
Yeah.
I mean, that idea that, when we get into the idea of free will, it's like she's made up her mind. If I stop her, and again, it's the one, it just, I guess.
Coldness was a gift to me.
It was a gift, yes. Her coldness was a gift.
Shivers down my spine. Her coldness in it. Like,
what was that?
What
was that? It's that philosophical conundrum about the prisoner had a choice between the loaf of bread and the key, and he takes the loaf of bread. The idea is the key might lead to freedom, but to uncertainty, the loaf of bread will sustain me in the hopes that maybe something better will come along. I mean, I know that's simplifying it, but that whole scene, how much is packed in that moment. And you might think like, well, he can easily stop her. He could physically stop her. But the thing is he won't let himself. It's his nature.
Yeah.
I mean,
He
the way
does-
he's written, the way
He does ask
What
her
does it
not
matter?
to, but
It's
then
gonna-
lets it
it's-
go.
Yeah.
What does it matter? She's
What
made
does
up
it
her
matter?
mind.
She's
made up her mind. She doesn't want to continue.
You know, and that's
that's
not
the
to
other thing-
condone that
The
sort
other
of thing.
thing I
but it's-
love
yeah.
about this movie is that he's grappling with that too. When he puts his
Yeah.
ring on the edge of that
Yeah.
overpass, that
Yeah.
is such a painful scene
Yeah.
of that he has to let the idea of her go. When he tells Kodi Smit-McPhee, we have to stop thinking about mom. He's
Right.
really, really talking about himself,
Yeah,
you know,
of
in
course.
so many ways, and
Which
how
he
long
never
he's
does.
yeah.
You know, and
Of
how,
course.
yeah, and
There it is at the
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
No matter how much he
yeah.
tries,
Yeah.
she's there with him, which is, I don't think I've seen a
It's
film
a
do that
powerful
as
film. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
think
it is.
this is almost unfair, Roseanne, that you pick these three films because each film, like to almost dismiss Road Warrior, one of my all-time favorite.
I know, and I
films, because only because the road scares the shit out of me so much. Even though I've pointed out, I think Cormac McCarthy. I don't know. The man's dead. I don't know if it's in an interview. I think he was probably influenced by the Road Warrior. It's not a new idea, but it's still, the Road Warrior is so indelible, right? I mean, every cheap LA production from that point forward was doing everybody was doing Road Warrior ripoffs.
Well, just
Everybody. It
just
became
one
a thing.
look at the Marauders, the Berserker Boys, and whatnot.
Got it.
You know, I mean, how many movies have copped that style?
It's like Blade Runner. The two came out the same year, and
Yeah.
they both had divergent but mind-blowing versions of the future. And the Road, I think, is just sort of takes that form and takes it to the most nightmarish level. Where, like, for me, when I was 12, the Road Warrior was a nightmare. Like, this is just ghastly. I remember I was just in, when they rape the woman and then shoot her with the arrow, and it's just ghastly. Like, gosh, this movie's real. I'd never seen, I was 12, so I hadn't really seen such sort of cold, hard violence in my life. So that movie was, of course, an eye-opener. Like, whoa. But there is the goodness, and full credit to Bruce Spence and Mel Gibson for bringing that out, because the goodness really comes out in this really subtle way, especially, which I noticed this time more than ever, which is Bruce Spence. I've always taken it for granted, but in a way you see him, he's just as loopy. I mean, he's loopier, obviously, but they meet each other with the snake and the little gyrocopter, and Bruce Spence can barely talk. He's so goofy. But Mel Gibson can't talk either. He's like,
but he doesn't talk at all. At
booby
least
trap.
Yeah.
They're all like sort of
Touch
grunting
those
and making
tongues, yeah.
sounds at each other.
Right.
And then by the end of it, Bruce Spence is taken off the cap and he's now their leader. And it's a really, really subtle transformation, which I think is amazing.
But if you watch, though, from almost the get-go, well, not really the get-go when we meet Bruce Spence, but there are little things in his performance where you see those glimpses of humanity, of a guy that really is above it all.
Yeah.
And I don't
Well,
mean
he
I'm
wipes-
better than
he
you.
wipes his
The
mouth.
wiping, that scene, the wiping of the mouth is such a great little,
Yeah.
kudos to
He
him if he
seems
came up
more-
with that idea.
he
But
seems
even
much
his-
more open to it, open
Yeah.
to this idea of, humanity and collaboration and things like this. He seems like he's constantly trying to get Max to feel the same way, and Max is just completely, I would say, entirely shut off.
Right.
But even I think one of the most impactful moments is when he watches the woman. We don't see her getting shot with the arrow, but his reaction sells it. And
Sure.
just the look, that idea of just all the hope draining out of his face.
Yeah.
But he never lets it. That's the beauty,
Yeah.
is that he still has something inside. Those great moments when he's trying to convince Mel to stay, or Max to stay. Oh, come on, you're not a coward. Stupid, maybe, but not a coward.
Yeah. Great line.
Wonderful.
Yeah. In fact, nearly every line in that film, because there's so few, they're all gems.
They
The
are.
lines from Humongous, what a puny plan. They're all great. Like
Humongous
all
is
the
awesome.
lines, whatever little few lines there are.
And what I love
Papagallo and
about
all
it,
that,
though,
they all have great lines.
again, too, and they're grounded in reality. It's like, when you watch the Marvel Universe movies or whatever, and they all have these profound, everything is a statement, like, yes, I came about, I was born of death, you're like, rather than I survived. I mean, it doesn't, they're profound without trying to be so profound. There's a difference where it just comes out of the reality of the situation.
Well, again, I
don't
take
know.
it from it's profundity that comes from a filmmaker who has better things on his mind, which is throwing guys 60 feet across the highway. you know? So like he's not trying that hard. That's the beauty of the script. I listened to that was their goal to, it was their goal to keep it quiet and keep it like they wanted to express the mood in pictures, and they wanted to express the feelings and the emotions in pictures, which they, knowing that about them, that's hats off, because they did it. Like, wow, I always thought it was just because they were so busy doing stunts that they just thought of the script as a sort of an afterthought. But that wasn't the case at all. But even still, with the focus being on the amazing stunts, and the stunts still are just fantastic. Car chases are usually boring. This is not a movie with boring car chases.
No, because it's obviously it's so much more than a car chase. And again, that's why I think it goes, in a sense, this idea of mobility in all three worlds is so essential to the film, all three films. And so I do think that's interesting, mobility as survival. And I guess that goes with your Pilgrim's Progress, honestly. So I just think the loudness of the survival in Road Warrior versus the quiet world of nature and in Walkabout, and then in The Road, I think it's a combo. I think it's a combo of both. And again, I feel like roads factor heavily into all three films, which I think is interesting.
Barren death roads. Barren death
think about
roads.
Jenny Agutter putting, like, very decidedly placing her stupid little shoe on that road.
On the road,
On the road, and nothing is ever the same. And then you see the bleakness that is then The Road and Mad Max, honestly, when they get to that mining. And it reminded me so much of Virginia City, that there are just holes in the earth filled with equipment. And that's how we get to The Road. That's how we get to Road Warrior, on this very road itself.
So I'm just going to ask you to explain to the fools out there. This isn't quite right. We're a little breaking tradition here. We're bringing in a fourth film. But I really need you, Roseanne and Alex, I'll just stay quiet, I promise, to explain to the fools why Fury Road doesn't measure up. Because there are a lot of fools out there who say, and I say to you, you Fury Road fans are fools. The film is stupid, and the reason why is it doesn't possess this. It's all bullshit. So, Alex and Roseanne, Alex, you're up. Do you like Fury Road?
No, I don't. Yes. I was majorly disappointed. And trust me, I went into that movie with high hopes. I like Tom Hardy. And Charlize Theron is a capable actress.
As proven in The Road.
Yes, oh my God, yes. As
probably her best performance in my estimation.
But as a certain friend of mine would always remind me, of Mr. Gino Caputi, the one thing that you have to have from Max Rockatansky is just that element of, this is a guy that's on the verge of madness. And that's why Mel Gibson was always the perfect guy for it. It's, even when he's not talking in the eyes, this is a guy, what's he going to do? And Tom Hardy,
especially when he's not talking.
When he's not talking, and then with what you get to Tom Hardy, who can do that, and for some reason it was like an emasculated Max.
Beyond that, just that.
Well, that's just one thing.
What they're fighting for. What was that?
I never got a sense. I never felt like I cared.
What are they fighting for?
I don't know. I get water or something.
Are we fighting for civilization? And it's there. It's lip service. It's water, but it's not.
But it didn't feel the same. It didn't feel the same as this. Like, this is about what it is to survive as humans, as people who can live above the lowest absolute animal state. And instead, to me, it all seemed to be this computer-generated, empty sort of shadow of that story.
Yeah, it's like the rave in the Matrix, too. That's what that movie reminded me of. Like, yeah, you can
Right.
talk about how much you love humanity, but you're not going to show me this
Right.
stupid, corny rave
Oh my
and
God.
help that and
Right.
think I'm going to like, oh yeah, I'm down with that, man. It's
Humans,
like,
am I right?
This is
Yeah.
weak. This is weak
Right.
crap. So anyway, I just had to
Well,
get that out
it compared to the Road Warrior, it really had an over-the-top cartoonish feel.
Compared
And
to
pe-
anything.
But
And again,
compared to anything,
hated-
well, especially compared to the Road Warrior, where
Sure.
you could say that those are archetypes or stereotypes, those characters, but you look at them and it's like, but they all feel real. I mean, these are guys, these are men and women that have to adapt. This is what they do to stay alive.
Compare Papagallo to the "Hello, love. It's us, the women of the desert. We're going to keep you alive, love." It's like, ugh, awful.
I can't even remember that, but
Yeah.
okay. And again, the brilliant performance. I can't think of the actor's name. Help me out, Papagallo.
He has a real name, Preston.
He has
Mike
a real
Preston.
name,
His
Mike
name,
Preston.
Mike Preston.
My God, he was great.
He's great.
And he was probably odd to say, the most verbose character in the movie.
Right.
And yet he still had all the right lines. And again, as I've said, that great line with, "You just going to let him go?" He fulfilled his contract. He's an honorable man. I mean, and again, it's like, it comes out of a real place. It's, I don't know. And it just really hits you in the gut.
Amen.
Well, and again, you have this idea of people trying to survive in a society. That's why I like the men and women together have this very, like, they're single-minded in their purpose. Whereas by the time you get to Fury Road, it's this like stupid, almost sci-fi channel fantasia of these 3 brides or whatever that are reserved for Toe Cutter and Charlize Theron and her own sort of really pathetic agenda and meeting those women with the seeds, which is just too much
What was the little thing or the little
Thunderdome anyway, and it all just seemed like lip service to this.
So again, let's just get out there. Thunderdome is everybody's
I
favorite.
wish you hadn't brought this up, honestly.
What's that?
I wish you hadn't brought this up.
Well, I just want to get full Road Warrior
Okay,
mileage
Thunderdome,
because
okay.
it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So we have to talk about how Thunderdome is everybody's favorite letdown. Like, what a letdown. After the greatest movie of all time, or one of them, you go in going, oh, this is going to be even better. This is going to be the best. The shot, I remember the previews, him putting on the cap. You couldn't see the feathers on the cap. You just see him putting on a captain's cap and kids reaching up to him. I thought, okay, this is going to be like real Jesus Christ stuff. And it's just the worst movie.
It's not.
Well, at the time. So again, it's like crashing into a wall. Now, again, I look at it now, and there's a lot of skill in that movie. There's a lot of stuff. But
There's a lot of
There
good
is, but the first half of the
and Fury
movie,
Road is a
I
rehash
really,
of
if
that
they
one.
could have just,
Yeah,
if they could have
for
just
sure.
stayed,
A less interesting version of that.
Exactly.
And let's face it, and Charlize Theron, and I really do like her quite a bit as an actress. She's, she doesn't have a tenth of the intensity that even Tina Turner has. Let's face it.
No.
And I just feel like there's a savageness that is no longer in that world. And if you
No.
don't have that, why would you make these films?
And it got stamped out pretty good in Thunderdome, too.
Definitely.
The minute they go into the desert with the kids, the movie's over. It's like,
yeah.
it's still there in Thunderdome. Thunderdome is awesome. It's a great sequence.
Yeah,
And
no, I
even
love
if
the
even if
Thunderdome
the world
stuff.
is too music video-ish and too gimmicky, there's a lot of guys in
Well,
stupid
it was 85,
Hollywood
so-
outfits. There's a lot of smoke in the air. It's a
There's
dumb,
still a vibe there, though.
There's still
that I
that.
don't-
There's it's
Yeah.
still a distant. It's a rich cousin to the Road Warrior, and it's
Yeah.
a rich, boring cousin to the Road Warrior. And it's an obnoxious cousin, but it's still related. Fury Road is a computer game,
Yeah.
and that's my big fear of Furiosa.
And it has no skin in the game.
yeah,
And that's the
Furiosa
thing
is
that's
going to be more Fury Road, and that's my
okay.
fear.
And so speaking of, the reason I thought it was particular to maybe Australia or Australians is there's hella skin in the game in those 3 movies. I'm incredibly invested in all 3.
Amen.
As a human, as a human.
We're talking about the
Having-
three movies that...
The three, but we're
The three that we're talking
Roseanne's
about.
job is always to steer,
Yes.
she, as an editor, as a frustrated editor,
Sorry.
Roseanne's job is always to steer the topic back on.
Awesome.
Sorry?
All right. I
But
just want to
you're
make
right.
sure that I'm
So
not,
with
you
that in
know...
mind, again, it's hard to well, I just had to, I had to give a speaking part to Road Warrior because they were sitting in the corner. Same thing with Walkabout, another amazing, sort of
No, I know.
decade-inspiring or defining film that we're kind of getting just because I threw it out there about the road, which again I can go on and on about how the road gives me nightmares. But Walkabout, another formidably made film with a strong message that I just don't want it to get lost in the shuffle because we probably shouldn't have put these films together just because they're all so titanic. Anyway, so let's get into the heart of Walkabout, which I finally noticed was really just taking off your clothes and getting groovy and having sex in a real way. That's what it's
I
about.
would say divine feminine, divine masculine. I just think
Yeah.
it's true that they're bookended by male suicides. But one sets her free, almost her father and his like perverted sense of what she is to him as a daughter, what he is as a father. Any father who lusts after his daughter and wants to kill his own kids, living in this perversion because he has no sense of self because he's so isolated from himself in this, terrible apartment building,
Terry
all
Gilliam,
these things,
Brazil-like
whatever.
World. Notice some
You got it. You
precursors
got
to
it.
Brazil in this film. Those papers,
I think
was like,
precursors to a lot of amazing filmmakers. Let's face it, including my fave, always Terrence Malick.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
it's a lot of water, a lot of trees.
A lot of cutaways, animals,
A lot of cutaways, yeah.
You got it.
and bugs.
Yeah. Well, I love how
Don't tell me, Terrence Malick, if you're out there listening, don't tell me you weren't influenced by Walkabout.
I think you should proudly admit to be influenced by Walkabout. Why would
Yeah.
you not be influenced by Walkabout?
But it was
Anyway,
It
go
certainly,
ahead. Sorry.
Well, it certainly set the tone for Nicholas Roeg's career. I mean, it wasn't every movie, but some of his better movies, he always seems to come back to that idea, either of nature versus civilization, or that idea of when we really had nothing but ourselves in the vast space of nature, we were happy. And then when we conquered
Well, there was a
everything, we had
balance.
everything we wanted, we were miserable.
And I think Nicholas Roeg has this, and I think Terrence Malick does too, this sort of obsession with geology, because I can't help it. And I know I've said this a million times to Gino, so I'm so sorry. But David Bowie walking on those shale hills in Man Who Fell to Earth is one of the most, with the like beating hot sun, because the earth is basically killing him the minute he arrives, is just one of the most indelible images to me. Anyway, and so the idea of working with and living amongst geology, I think for some reason Nicholas Roeg is really into, and then mining in Eureka. So I do think that's something
There
he
is
thinks about a lot.
something, yeah. No, there is definitely
Because
something.
the road takes us there, and Road Warrior takes us there as well.
Walkabout has all these, just like the plums or what. Those images don't leave. Like, I saw the film when I was 8, and the idea of the earth drying up and all those just little plums or whatever they are, it just dried up. They're there. I'm like, oh right, like the other day when I was watching, I'm like, I always remembered that as just sort of the hope gone, withered in the sun. So it just seems to be something that I notice in his filmmaking is the hot, unrepentant earth.
Yeah.
He
No,
does it a
definitely.
lot, and it's a feel in his films. Anyway,
And it's the only thing that can get all of the rip-torn sex out of my mind. Which will now take the rest of
I guess he
my
was taking heat for exploiting Jenny Agutter, so he
No,
gave us Rip
let's
Torn
make up
in his
for it.
full
I want to
glory.
get into this because I do think the fact that he shows rip torn, so like
Of all
sexually,
people.
Right. I'm like,
Well,
this is not about. This is
again,
not
it's
about.
like I was
just
rich and I was
her.
poor. Believe me, rich was better.
Rich is better.
I've
right.
seen Jenny Agutter and I've seen Rip Torn. Believe me, Jenny Agutter is better.
Jenny is
Sexist
better.
I may be.
Boy, is she better.
But all I'm saying is, I do think that he's interested in sex in a different way than just the idea of exploiting what is young and beautiful. I think he is. It's not just okay. When I woke up and realized that Stanley Kubrick definitely has this sexual proclivity that to me is almost similar to like Quentin Tarantino's foot thing. I don't feel the same about Nicholas Roeg. I do feel that he's trying to show sexuality as sexuality in various circumstances, because he does show her and David Gulpilil.
David Gallipoli.
I know.
What's
It's what I
his
wanted
name?
to say this whole
Come
time.
on. All right, come on.
I'm
We can
so
look this up.
sorry.
I don't want to. I don't want
We
to
gotta be
disrespect.
better.
No. We don't want to
I
disrespect
can't
him.
disrespect him. It's
Hold
an
on,
amazing. First of
hold
all,
on.
what an amazing performance by
I
him.
will
Formidable.
make an attempt.
Um,
David Gulpilil.
That's what
Okay.
I said.
I'm going to say
Gulpilil.
Gulpilil.
I
Gulpilil.
I made it bad with Gallipoli. We all know.
Well,
this.
we all would say that because Gallipoli rolls off the tongue
Gulpilil.
easier.
That's not so hard.
Gulpilil.
Gulpilil. Okay,
yeah.
so David
Gulpilil.
Gulpilil and she absolutely have, but they're at the same age basically in that film, and so they're both going through the same thing. So I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's exploitation. I think it's an examination, just like Moonrise Kingdom, for example, shows teenage sexuality. It's not anything you want to see as an adult, but it does exist.
Well,
As an
there's a
adult, I
difference.
don't wanna
You
see
can't-
Rip
You
Torn
can't bring up
either.
Moonrise Kingdom. We don't see any skin in that film.
We sure do. They're in their underwear dancing right next to each other,
We
rubbing
don't
up on
see
each other.
genitals. We don't see
We don't see-
boobies.
Yeah, but it's not genitals doing anything other than existing.
Okay, Pauline Kael, as you wish.
Again with the Pauline Kael.
Again with the
Big
kale.
name for you to call me, isn't it?
I'm
Anyway.
Jerry Lewis to your Pauline Kael.
Perfect.
She's a dirty old broad. All right. Okay, so Gulpilil. Got it.
Gulpilil.
Gulpilil. David
Again.
Gulpilil.
An amazing, gorgeous physical performance by him. I think it's great.
Okay. Yeah. No, he does solid work.
It's
you know,
formidable work.
yeah. Let's get into the performances.
Yeah, we should.
So, this is a good one. So, who's the best? Who's the best of the three? Mel Gibson, Jenny Agutter, or Viggo Mortensen?
Jeez.
Alex Robertson, you're up.
Yeah.
That's a toughie.
Yeah.
But thinking, okay, so I'm just going to go on the fly right now, and I'm thinking about all three, and I'm thinking about the circumstances, and having just seen The Road again, just a few hours before this podcast, I got to say Viggo Mortensen because of the amount of heartache
Yeah.
and
So
the
that's-
perils
yeah.
of being a father. You know, even being a father in more secure times like now, you still can't help but feel, you know, always that uncertainty. But to be in a situation where every day is perilous, every step you take is perilous.
He wears it on his face.
And he
I've
wears
come
it
away
on
with
his
that
face.
because Mel Gibson's performance is a star performance. Jenny Agutter, I don't know, she never became a star, but she, you know, a recognizable face. Viggo Mortensen is some of the best acting ever done, actually. All things, you know, that is just an exercise in pure commitment. You
Yeah.
know? And so
No,
you
it
can-
is.
Yeah,
And it
I'm
could-
sure Viggo Mortensen's a son of a bitch and a pain in the ass to work with. I imagine. Just because he's so committed, like, you know, he got arrested for being homeless when he was doing
Okay.
The Road because
Okay,
he was walking
well.
around in his bags and his dirty fingernails. So
Okay,
So
but that's
maybe,
one
but
thing.
it's
That's
there.
one thing, but is he, it's another thing when you just wreak havoc on the set and you make a life a living hell for
No, I
your
know, but
castmates.
he's probably not
I don't know.
easy to talk. I'm just saying he's probably not easy to talk to and get to set as a former AD.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe he is. Who knows? I don't want to besmirch the guy.
I don't
but
know.
I'm just saying
Regardless.
whatever he's doing as a method actor, I'm like, this is a guy who's so skinny you can see his ribs, and again, that's a lot of work, and just this commitment to being hungry and cold and dirty. That's tough. I mean, DiCaprio did it in The Revenant, but I think the king is Viggo Mortensen. Like, this is this is a tour de force in commitment that I just think it goes beyond anything Mel Gibson can do. And I like Mel Gibson a lot.
No, but Mel Gibson is a different actor. He's not going to do that kind of thing. Viggo Mortensen, I don't even know if I would call it method what he does. I mean, when I think method, I think of the people that abuse the method, the people that really draw attention to what they're doing. It's like, well, don't tell me about it. Show me. And Viggo Mortensen is one of those guys that he doesn't have to talk about what he's doing. He just shows us the results.
And Viggo
that's what we see in a
Mortensen
movie
is
like
one of
this.
I've never seen anything like it, actually, where he convinces me that when he looks at his son, even though he's like nagging at him and telling him not to sulk and still being a dad, that I genuinely do believe that he thinks his son is the word of God.
Yeah.
He has that look on his face.
Yeah.
Where he's both.
What does he say at the beginning? He is my warrant.
Yeah.
Right. He is my warrant. And if he is not the word of God, then God never spoke.
Right.
Yeah. And this
Now
is,
that's
again,
straight from the book.
That's
straight from the book.
Yeah.
But also what's wonderful about his performance is just...
Did he get nominated? Look at
I
it,
don't
Bal.
know.
I don't know. Probably not, because
So
they
again-
were,
I'm talking shit, but I really don't think he got nominated.
Okay, let's
Nominated for Green
you're probably
Book.
right.
Can I just
You're
yell
probably
about that?
right.
and
Yeah,
Green
you can
Book,
yell. Oh.
that's the pleasing performance.
See, that's how,
that-
Yeah.
And this is
it's
not...
a commitment to sandwich eating that I respect, but give me a break.
To his credit, he seemed like an Italian. I'll give him
He
that.
did. He did. I liked him because of that.
But he is half Italian, right? So that's not such a stretch. But the road is...
Who knows with that guy?
Well,
he
but
is the
he's
calico
quite...
cat.
He is, but he's quite... Yeah, Viggo Mortensen is quite a Renaissance man. I mean, when you read about his
for
background, the
sure.
guy... How many languages can he speak? I mean, he's
Like a
multilingual.
ton. He lives in South America or
He's
something.
a,
He's a musician. He's all these
he's a poet. He's everything, yes.
Yeah.
He was even married to Exene Cervenka.
I
Let's
think
not
about it a
forget
lot.
that. Yes.
could
Yes.
forget
It's
that.
wild to think. Wild to think those two.
Yeah.
Wow.
But on the other hand, it seems like it works. Let me
Well,
just
he
say
was
though,
nominated. He was nominated for other awards, never the Academy Awards. But we all know that that's just nothing more than a dog and pony show.
Okay, so
and
so you
to
had
not get
Jeff
nominated-
Bridges and Crazy Heart. I'm looking at the Oscars 2010.
No Viggo Mortensen.
Okay.
Isn't that something?
well, I do feel like we're paying short shrift to Jenny Agutter, who I forgot how great her performance is and how
Okay.
she is this sort of self-contained British woman almost walking around keeping her cool the entire time with her brother. And how, so then her shift to sort of accepting nature as a guide kind of is actually pretty big. And then you can really feel her loss. I think that is a great performance. And I think it's an underrated performance because she is carrying that movie.
She's carrying the movie, but she's. It's not the
Let's-
same thing, Roseanne. I'm sorry.
I know
Okay.
it's not the same
No,
thing, but I
but
just want
let's-
to talk about it. Wait a second. If we're talking about how great Mel Gibson is, and he is, she deserves, there are so many
No, I think it's a for
terrible
sure.
turns that performance could have taken, and she didn't take any of them.
No,
no.
you know she.
It's-
But let's
it's
talk.
not
Okay,
just-
how about we talk about the elephant in the room, which is the Billabong scene when she gets naked.
Okay.
I love how she said, I mean, it was the first time I ever did that. Nicholas Roeg, I guess, made it so that she would be comfortable. Apparently, there were no other crew members there. It was just Nicholas Roeg with a camera.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Shut up. You
I
were making
know.
it cheap,
But
you
come
son
on.
of a bitch.
Yes.
Anyway.
I'm
But
just
how she-
I'm just speaking from experience.
Okay.
There's
That
But-
that just
but-
sounds like That sounds like publication stuff. Or
We
Maybe it is
talked about
publication
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it is publication stuff. But I don't think there's any way that you can say, oh, that was just nothing but a gratuitous nudity scene. It was like, no, it came out of a real place.
Yes.
It makes sense. I mean, in the middle of the movie when the first time we really see, I mean, literally, stripping herself of her clothes, but also stripping herself of whatever inhibitions or conventions that she has learned, that she does go back to, but just that moment of freedom. And of course, at the end of the movie, at the end of the movie, when she's right back to where she started from, it really is it's the call of the wild.
For sure.
And not even just like, inhibitions and sexuality and things like this. She can relax around both those guys. Like, that's something different. She relaxes. And that's not sexual. That's about the fact that she finds this balance and this peace, this harmony with those other two individuals. And that's the loss that's so painful at the end. Like, yes, it's nature and all these things too, but it's that she could sort of be this self that she wasn't constantly trying to please her father or be a schoolgirl or these kinds of things.
But she did basically, I'm not saying it's her fault. She did it unwittingly, but she spurned David Gulpilil, and
she did.
He kills himself for it. Much like, I mean, so it's the same. What do you have to say? What do you have to say about males and the male species, Roseanne? Because he doesn't get sex. Both of them kill because they didn't get sex.
His is not. I don't think about sex. His is about this like abject love, and again this idea of the senseless killing of the wildebeest or whatever.
Yeah. Right, because it comes right.
Yeah, well, he's laying on their bones, and
but
again,
I think a similar psyche, though, right?
In that trance,
I think it comes from this place of
I don't know.
This is this sense of where he feels like he belongs. He goes on this walkabout and finds belonging with these two people as well, and her just acting like she has no idea where this coming from, and I don't think she does, because I think it is such a different experience. Yeah, exactly. She doesn't know. She doesn't see it. And so I think not so much as it's sexual, it's that he feels this rejection of who he genuinely is, as opposed to the father who doesn't.
But in the context of the film, now suddenly you're ignoring the sexuality. The sexuality is a huge part of it.
It's a huge part of
it.
But is it that he's sexually...
his rejection? It's not just sexual. It's the whole package.
The whole package.
He obviously
I agree.
loves her, and he thought that she was his purpose, and she was the reason for his walkabout, and she has no clue about it. She's like, no, what's he doing? I don't know. She's talking.
Well,
to her,
I think it's a very
different.
But it's interesting that
different reason to kill himself. Yeah. It is and it isn't.
Yeah.
It is interesting at the beginning of their, like the first time they meet, when they always talk about the human gaze and the male gaze, and gazing on how the woman's body is fragmented in film. Mm-hmm. But we kind of get a reverse of that. In a subtle way when she's looking down at his waist. Not so subtle. Well,
it's a lot of ass job.
No, Alex, that's a bum.
But compared...
It's a bum.
No.
She gets comfortable with it. Where it's not just objectifying it, she's comfortable with it. She's riding on his back, crossing the thing. She's got her scarf on her, she's comfortable with it. But definitely, I would say it's both. That's why I feel like it's not just exploiting her as this 16-year-old nubile whatever. I think it's the two of them in this together. And then again, sort of neutralized by the little boy who's also having this sort of like great experience in freedom.
Right, awakening, with the body paint, when he sort of adopts the same thing. Yeah. Yes. It just seems very comfortable. And on top of that, we have those scenes that are juxtaposed, like the geological team out in the desert and staring at that woman.
Yeah, and using that strange cards to play and all this.
Yeah, or the white couple that are, using
the Aborigines.
I love that strange scene with the wife when she starts talking to the Aborigines, and they ignore her. They just, oh, fine. What she says, have it your way, and then walks back. And
what do you make of the Aborigines in that film? Why do they burn up the car and laugh at the dead old man? Or not? They don't burn up the car. They don't burn up. Sorry,
They don't know the car's already.
They come across the wreckage and they think it's funny.
They think it's funny.
I felt like because it made no sense. I felt like it was absurd. Not them, the car and him.
Yeah,
There was
they're
something
laughing
about
now,
it
though.
to them.
I get
Yeah.
that Nicholas Roeg is laughing, but why are the Aborigines laughing? Why aren't
Now
they
we have
horrified?
to. Now we have to
I find
assume,
it equally senseless.
and we have to assume they hung him in the tree.
They did,
Yeah.
right?
You know,
They
which
did. They
which
put him in the
again,
tree.
a strange, because you have him in the tree, and then you have David Gulpilil at the end, who places himself in the tree. Maybe
No, it's
that is
very similar. It's
maybe
the
that
imagery
is
is very similar.
That could be a cultural thing. It'd be interesting
Yeah.
to look into the Aborigine culture. I mean, we do
Also,
know the Walkabout is a big part of their, the
Yeah.
coming of
Right.
age.
Right.
I like the fact that he's talking to her, he pays no attention to that farmer's wife as she's talking to him, like you said. It's not just this, it's her. It's Jenny Agutter that he does think is his purpose. He's
Yeah.
so focused on that.
Yeah.
That, and I like that idea of not seeing anything else but those two people for him.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Okay, so we got back into the depth of it all, but let's
Sorry. Back to
No, it's okay.
performances.
Performances, okay.
Mel Gibson's awesome.
We
Let's
haven't.
face it.
Yeah, no, Mel Gibson. Obviously, this
He
this
is.
is the movie that made him a star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and deservedly so. And
sure.
he squandered it, and then did Lethal Weapon, and then and I'm saying the first few years of his American, he was trying to be a serious actor, right? I mean, he Mrs. Soffel and The River. And
The River, yep.
He was doing all. Then he went back and he did Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. He wasn't happy about that, and he became quite the drunk. And then suddenly he does Lethal Weapon, and then his career became that. And it's like you look at The Road Warrior. The promise of The Road Warrior was never met in my mind with Mel Gibson. You know, he did Hamlet. Obviously, he tried, but The Road Warrior is still his finest performance. Or Mad Max 2. It's just by being there and not trying. And once we found out after Lethal Weapon that he liked to grin and twitch and act goofy, I think his career just took this downward spiral into he's never been as awesome as he was in The Road Warrior. And why is that, Alex Robertson?
Hollywood, baby. I don't know.
You think so? 'Cause hold on, this is silly. But speaking of the road, I just watched Finch on Apple TV because
Oh yeah,
Tom
you're talking
Hanks.
about that, yeah.
But
I hadn't
have
even
to
heard of this movie until you
It's-
texted
because
me.
it went straight to it went straight to streaming because it was made in 2019. It was going to come out in 2020, and it had to go straight. But it's really the programmer dorks version of The Road. I mean, it needs to be mentioned just because it's like a knockoff. There's a lot of Road knockoffs.
Yeah.
And again, that means they're deep down they're Road Warrior knockoffs. But there's a lot of Road knockoffs, including Logan. Logan's another one. That's just a big fat ripoff of The Road. But that's what comic books do.
In the world's most dumbass way.
Yeah. But anyway, there's Finn.
No, please, back to Tom Hanks.
No, but I just got to say, Tom Hanks, here's the deal. He is a great actor. I'm like, he's doing a really good job, but that's his problem. He's like he's deeper than Mel Gibson as an actor. He can do a lot of things, and it's always in service of pap. And that's a shame about Tom Hanks, because he actually has the goods. Anyway, just that Mel Gibson, I just don't think physically, emotionally has the goods. He's not honest. That's all.
I think the biggest thing about him why he hasn't, because you could say Hollywood, but I'm like, there are plenty of actors who make dumb stuff and are still great. Looking at you, Ben Kingsley, or whoever, right? But the idea I really think is that as he lives, he works, and he's a liar-faced alcoholic, and so he can never really face who he is. And so instead it's a persona, and the persona is exhausting.
Well, that's the unfortunate thing, though.
Yeah.
The demon booze. It's an unfortunate.
As
thing.
opposed
I
to
think
him as
everybody-
Max, which is just
it didn't help.
Yeah. No.
certainly didn't help. But him as Max is this clear. He's lightning in a bottle in that movie for sure. He's
Well,
a
I don't
flame.
know. Do you
He's
think
awesome.
it's
But so is George Miller. George Miller's lightning in a bottle.
Agreed.
Once he got to start talking, boy, shut up, George. Nobody cares about what you have to say. Least of all me. Like, terrible.
no.
I think after that, every one of his films is a stinker. You got Witches of Eastwick. Okay, Twilight Zone the movie. Fine, but he did the John Lithgow bit.
Yeah.
It holds up because of John Lithgow, honestly.
Yeah. Sure.
It's not, his direction's overwrought. Like,
it's the only thing I remember.
Like, everybody's segment in that movie is overwrought. Spielberg, they're all overwrought. Then he does The Witches of Eastwick. Crap. Nobody talks about that movie. You know why? Because it's crap.
In his defense,
Because it's
also
crap.
based on a book that's crap because John Updike can suck it. So
Of course, John Updike can. Of course.
Of
Goes without
course.
saying. John Updike. Ooh, that John Updike really pisses me off.
The other day,
I'm
my
glad
friends
you
and I
share
were
my opinion, but anyway, go
Never read a
ahead.
single. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I'm just clowning. But then, so what? Happy Feet. You got your Happy Feet.
Yeah.
So Babe, Pig in the City, Mad Max Fury Road. He's just, Beyond Thunderdome. He's just, his films start just.
And again,
stinking.
didn't he? We talked about this. Didn't he do Lorenzo's Oil?
Yeah,
I've
never
he
seen.
did.
Lorenzo's
Nobody
Oil. He was
has,
my
yeah.
favorite actor. And Nick
Nick
Nolte.
Nolte.
Doing
with
it
an Italian accent. Mamma mia.
I forgot Nick Nolte's in that movie.
Mamma mia. I feel like eating a pasta primavera.
Now, there's a guy that needs to stay away from the method, okay? There's a guy that needs to stay away from that kind of stuff. It's like, it ain't
And the
helping.
booze, but anyway.
And whatever it is he's on,
He just needs to stay away.
But we might as well
regardless.
say, of course, wait. Before we segue into directing, so I'll shout about George Miller for now. Let's get into best supporting actors. Comparing Kodi Smit-McPhee with Bruce Spence, with I guess who's a supporting actor in I guess the little kid Nick Roeg. Does David?
How is David
Gulpilil.
Gulpilil
He's not a
not?
supporting actor.
That's hard to say.
No,
He's kind of a lead. He's
he's a lead. Okay, but I feel like
I mean, we have a trio of films. The only one who's the least important is the kid, and that's Nicholas. That's Nicholas.
Roeg's son?
Luke, his son.
Yeah.
Luke Roeg, I think.
Yeah.
Lucian.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to Bruce Spence, hands down. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
the more I watch his performance, the more I just enjoy what he did in that movie.
Yeah.
That there is, it's not a comical over the top. I mean, this time around, when you really start digging into it, there's a lot going on that you start to wonder, what is this guy? So for the first time, I started trying to come up with a backstory for the guy. Like if I had to figure it out, and I think
Speaking of a method.
I think, but no, just yeah,
Did
but
you
just
did you do a daily diary?
no, I don't do that crap. No, but just thinking about, I just if I had to write a bio, an auto bio, I think he was a college professor. I really do. There's something about that. He's got that eccentric, sort of like a guy that's a tinkerer.
Yeah.
A guy
He's
that
a physicality of
understands.
one.
Yeah.
He's the physicality and just sort of that eccentric, there really is something almost poetic about his performance.
Yeah.
If that makes
I agree.
sense. I mean, it really is like a Shakespearean character.
Yeah.
But down under. But and also there's a lot of heart in that performance.
Yeah, and
And
subtle.
the way that's
subtle.
the beauty. That's the beauty.
When the girl tells him she can't go, and you
he
see
just-
him, he so desperately wants to run away with her because she's so
Yeah.
cute. But you see him nod, and that little nod shows his humanity. Like he's not a jerk. He's not the other side.
No, he's not.
Possibly.
Possibly.
like that he's
there's
not-
that. But even his sense of like of being a gentleman. I love that moment when they get back to the whirlybird or the chopper, and Mel finds the shotgun shells and opens the shot. Empty. All this time.
Yeah.
That's dishonest. Low.
Wow.
And it's such a great line. But it's his character. It really is his character. He's such
He's
a
tops.
wonderful.
Well, and he's also brave. I like
Yeah.
this.
He is.
I like
He
that
is.
he's-
Yeah.
And that he's not like finding this bravery. He is brave. He has been doing all these things. You know, I really do like that.
Yeah. When he rescues Max.
Though, I do think Kodi Smit-McPhee is my choice.
Oh,
okay.
I think
interesting, but I gotta. It is, but I gotta.
He's also, Alex and I were talking before you joined. He's still, to my taste, he's still a little too soft for that. At times, he's just too soft for a kid who's grown up in that world.
You know, though, I was thinking a lot about this, and I thought I was just like, you know, the truth is, though, when you give birth to a kid, in a lot of ways, no matter the environment, they are who they are. And to me, he seems like one of those kids who has just always been that way. I mean, in the way Viggo Mortensen even talks to him sometimes, like, okay, you have to sign, we have to just get going, that he knows who this kid is. And I think that's also part of why it's such a sacred duty of Viggo Mortensen's to protect him, because he does.
Well, he continues to hide
and that's not
him.
fair, because when Viggo Mortensen says, I'm the person who worries all the time, he's like, no, you're not. And again, you forget what it's like to be a kid who's constantly worried about if your father's going to die or what's going to happen next. And I think Kodi Smit-McPhee really shows that.
No, it's a good performance. I think it's a touch on the romantic side, only because you still, even if you're a bit of a softie or that's who you are, just the dirt and the grime and the face to face with hellishness every day will affect you in some way where you're just harder.
Again, he accepts it. He's there sleeping in the whatever.
I mean, maybe I personally would have counseled the makeup artist to stress him out a little bit more, in the sense of every kid you've seen, whether they're good or not. All fun, every kid you've seen, he's just it's a slight problem for me in the film that he seems a little too pristine. You know.
That's fine, but regardless, I think his performance for a kid, just for a kid, his performance is this very honest, vulnerable performance, and he's hiding his Australian accent, and he's
yes, he does. That's true.
He's doing tremendous work.
Yeah.
Well, it was an audacious start.
Certainly. Again, back to his tremendous performance.
Question for you. Who's the worst bad guy? Or who's the most scariest bad guy? Lord Humongous, Garrett Dillahunt, or the Bearded Man, or Civilization? Roseanne Caputi.
Well, that's tricky.
Actually, I'm gonna go one step further.
Okay.
What?
I'm gonna say Wes.
Wes is the
a lightweight.
I love Wes.
No. Humongous.
No. He keeps Wes on a chain. But the thing is, because he knows what.
But he's stronger than Wes.
He is, but he has that
Wes out.
And Wes has sentimental attachment.
That's why Humongous is king, because he can choke Wes out.
He is a king, but he knows.
Now, I think Humongous is as good as Darth Vader in many ways.
He is frightening. No, he is.
Because you could make that a comical, stupid part.
And
he's got a lot of comical lines, and he's still pretty awesome. And it shows everything about masks. You know, there's the thing. He's wearing hockey masks and a leather jock strap, basically, and he's still an amazing character. Like, he could have been so stupid and over the top, and yet...
Well, no. He is such a presence in that movie. No, I would never take away from him. No, never. Yes, he is strong. Yeah. But I remember for some reason when I saw the movie, it was always Wes that frightened me.
Well,
when he is let off his leash, because he is pure animal. He is pure animal.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with Humongous, we get the sense.
Like Hitler. He's like,
he is
lying. He's lying. I'll let you go. I'll let you
go.
Away.
You walk away.
Yeah. No.
But I get the sense
too. Control these animals like Wes, that he is their master, is terrifying about Humongous.
No, I will say that. Now I gotta say
this. Devil's seduction. You heard him. He's Who's gonna let us go? All right, I'll talk to this humongous.
I'll talk to this. He seems like a reasonable chap.
No, it's like humongous is scary as a concept. He's just as scary as industrialization.
He has some great lines. I mean, I never noticed it for the, because a lot you really have to listen to what he has to say. I love it when Max, when he gets his fuel, takes off in the middle of the night, goes through the camp, tries to get away, and Wes gets his men. They jump in the car and take off. And when Humongous, what was it? Oh, you disobey me, my puppy. You disappoint me. You just, that relationship between the two. I love that. Yeah. It is so great.
Yeah.
But there is a certain, even for someone like, it's odd, for someone like Humongous, he has a certain dignity, the way he carries himself. This is a man that doesn't do things rashly. So much. I mean, he seems, when he has to unleash, now you have made me unleash my, my dogs of war. I got to, okay, so I don't know if Roseanne knows this. I was telling Gino, I said, apparently in the beginning, when George Miller and his partner were playing around with the sequel, Mad Max 2, that Humongous was going to be Goose. That somehow Goose surviving his terrible Gino's never, he doesn't remember. I don't think he's seen it, but the character Goose, because he was horribly scarred.
No, I've seen it. I just don't.
Okay,
I've seen Mad Max once, and it just didn't leave much of an impression. I never.
Well,
want
it
to
left
see it
an impression on me.
I know.
Because you know what? Because I care.
With your Independent Spirit Award.
Kick your ass, boy. I'll unleash my dogs.
But I do want you to. I want you to give some. I get it. I want you to turn your attention toward Garrett Dillahunt, which I think is his best performance in a career of solid supporting roles.
It's a creepy performance.
That is,
it's a creepy, scary. The way he looks at Kodi,
the way he looks at Kodi Smit-McPhee, and it's just
you
like,
ain't gonna do
really
shit.
Gonna eat. He's gonna eat that kid. He really.
Well, that whole. I mean, again, talk about Humongous. It's like, y'all look like you're hungry. Come back to the truck. You're a doctor, right? Yeah. Do some good. We got somebody hurt on the truck.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna shoot me.
Yeah. Great.
He seems like the guy I would meet here in Malheur County. Who
Absolutely.
And that's what's so terrifying.
Absolutely, and it actually makes Humongous seem kind. So that's my point. I wanted to get there. I think Garrett Dillahunt, I will take in corporate raping of the planet over Garrett Dillahunt. And I will take Garrett Dillahunt over Humongous, and I think Humongous is awesome. And I'm still more scared of Garrett Dillahunt.
But it's interesting to juxtapose Garrett Dillahunt with Michael K. Williams.
Yeah.
Because they're coming from two different places. I mean, you feel sorry for the thief. I mean, you do. He took, but it's one of the few times when you're sort of angry with Viggo Mortensen's character and Kodi Smith. Why he's gonna die. He's gonna die. I don't care.
Yeah.
The idea that this boy who is your warrant, who is your hope, is telling you. I mean, really, like the Holy Spirit.
He keeps saying, "Listen to the boy. Listen to the boy."
Listen to the boy. When Duvall says, is he an angel? I mean, just those little hints here and there.
Almost hit you over the head with it, but it's a testament to the film is that it never ever feels stupid. It feels like in that world. I believe
it doesn't. It doesn't. And that, and it's interesting because both scenes are uncomfortable for different reasons. Yeah. The first because they're in danger. This guy is up to no good, where the thief is like anyone else, like, I'm just trying to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Viggo Mortensen's making the wrong call.
Key line that I overlooked before. He says, "I didn't do anything to your son."
Yeah,
Which didn't. Is true. It's just like, I never thought of that. It's true.
He sees the boy sleeping.
And you think that's like a throwaway line, but that means a lot in that world.
No, it does.
I didn't eat your son, basically. We're in a world where that could have happened. He just left him. And Viggo Mortensen's so steadfast in his anger that
Really fast, can I just make a quick argument for the raping of the earth as a villain? I do love the part in Walkabout where they go talk to the guy and he doesn't want to help them and he does keep telling them to keep their hands off the watering can.
The watering cans.
Yeah.
They're back in
Irritated
Yeah.
with the little boy, and I was just like,
Yeah.
if it wasn't the truth about fucking people in their watering cans and shit like that.
Exactly.
And
It's a very good scene.
well, back to the the banality of suburban life, of civilized life, and just oh God, now I realize what we got away from. Here we go. And probably just the joy that we're back in civilization. Don't touch that.
Right. I just thought it could have been so much dumber, but I just thought
goes to show the directors. I don't know. I don't want to pontificate and romanticize the 70s because there sure was, the 70s did. The 70s did produce, but it just seems like those movies, whether we're talking about The Godfather, Conversation, all the movies we've been raving about all this time, Planet of the Apes, Soylent Green, they just don't do the same sort of like quivery lip bullshit that we get in your movies like Finch. And that's the problem. Like now we're just dumber. We just really are. Like here's the problem.
Know, is it because they trusted their audience?
Idiocracy and you got The Road. So these two movies that I saw pretty much around the same time, and they both seem like this prophecy coming true. Dumber and scarier and more grim. And unfortunately, I can't get these films out of my head because we just I don't want to say we're heading to The Road, but it just feels like it. And that's why the film's so freaking scary because I can't face where we're heading.
Well, let's face it. When Robert Duvall's scene really freaked me out more this time because I felt more like him in that scene than even Viggo Mortensen. I usually identify with Viggo Mortensen, but him when he's just talking about just the weird sort of almost acceptance of it because he did know this was coming.
Right.
And he doesn't seem entirely surprised by it. And that's,
and
again,
suffered loss.
Yeah.
That heartbreaking scene. You said you had a son.
Great scene.
He said, right.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Not with you. Yeah.
Not with you. Not with you.
Really, really
and
good
the fact that he's blind, almost blind, and then he has the cataracts on his eyes.
Yeah.
And that
which just
I don't remember.
Is
that his description in the book?
It's been a long. I have to. I got to dig up the book. I got to dig it up.
Yeah, sure.
Now that I've seen it again, it's like okay.
Yeah, because I know. I'm pretty sure.
The book was more shocking than.
Well, the book again. Let's talk about this because now we've been already talking for 2 hours, so we're gonna have to wrap it up. And then I knew this was coming with these films, but the fact is this film is so all three films are beautifully, completely, 100% visions, but The Road, all of our three are complete visions that define cinema. But The Road is so unrelentingly bleak, but flawless. It's flawless in its vision. John Hillcoat, for goodness sake, to find all these burnt out trees and to constantly having trees falling in, the visual effects never feel like visual effects. Never. There's maybe one scene where they're heading to the city where I think, okay, that's a visual effect. But it's not grotesque. It's not like Mos Espa or something in one of the Star Wars movies, right?
No.
It feels complete and part of the vision. And I think Cormac McCarthy's book, as I read it, even though I saw the movie first, as I read it, I became more involved in the father's personal observations as it's more of a internal view of what's happening. So the book is definitely an internal view. The film gets full credit, like Blade Runner does, for externalizing this in the most vivid, complete way, if that makes sense. So when I read the book is sort of you literally feel like you're walking the road with this guy and as he looks around. But then the movie takes that step back, and we see that world from a third person, and it's just a different experience. It's a completely different experience. And John Hillcoat, I tip my hat to him for he's in that club of now. Lawless wasn't bad at all, but it must have been such a crushing disappointment to put your heart and soul into The Road and have nobody recognize him for it.
Well, and the fact that one of the criticisms I read of The Road when it first came out was because, right, the book is so existential and that it was difficult to make a movie of that. I'm like, that's right, it is, and he did.
That's the point. And he was smart,
Right.
smart
He did.
to not add certain things because the book. You think the movie is bleak, the book, I mean, just horrific.
sure.
The descriptions.
The movie is just so tasteful in comparison, but at the same time, still the most nightmarish film I've ever watched. You know, like just the scene of that girl and that woman being butchered by that gang. That's just sheer nightmare. I mean, it's just a nightmare. And
and the fact that we don't really see anything, but we see everything around it.
Yeah.
Well, we see them being surrounded, but you hear the death blow.
You know where it's headed. Yeah,
you know where it's headed.
I think because I was so terrified the first time, I forgot that we hear their screams later. I forgot because I don't even think about that. Just the image of those that woman and that girl running from that group of men it's a nightmare. I mean, there's just
the fact that all of that happens in the daylight is just for some reason even more terrifying. That them being in the bathroom of that house with the basement from
God.
I'll never get over that as long as I live.
It's a hard
That's why I fully admit this time I closed my eyes. I've seen it twice before. I just can't
Can't do it. And the fact that I'm sorry, I don't think very many other filmmakers could have done that. And I feel this like really sad for John Hillcoat, who hasn't really done anything since.
No, I mean, obviously, I mean,
hopefully
he did one of the finest adaptations ever.
For sure.
And nobody, to this day, nobody notices. And I think nobody notices out of sheer terror. They just don't want to. And all the people who don't say they're scared, because I read reviews saying, it's a zombie movie without zombies. Like, how can you be so freaking closed off from humanity and your soul that's your reaction? Enjoy your Rice Krispie treats, you big dumb boob.
Exactly. In fact, I'm sorry, but you can, I've never watched The Walking Dead, but I'll tell you this. This is 10 times scarier. This is 10 times scarier than something like somebody in makeup. You know why? Yeah. Because they're human. That's what's disturbing. They're just like you and me.
It's mundane.
It's mundane, exactly. The banality of evil.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And Walking Dead, literally, I hate to use that word, but I remember, taking it back, and Braveheart, Mel Gibson's Braveheart. I remember I was completely thrown out of the movie, but the first time I saw it, when in the background I saw two stuntmen duffing it with their swords.
Right.
Just duffing it. I'm like, ooh. Well, in Walking Dead, the first time I watched one episode, and in the background, I said, look at that stupid extra going, I said, off it goes. I'm not watching this crap. Not when The Road exists. If everybody wants to call me a snob and, you're just critical. Yeah, you know why? Because The Road exists. I'm not scared by your stupid idiot extras going, blah, 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 blah. It's just... The Road exists. You made the most scary movie ever seen, and nobody cares about it because they don't want to care about it.
They don't want to. Yeah, I can't. I won't argue.
I do think this is going to be. I have to say, I almost don't want to pit these three directors against each other because I just feel like each is such a masterful achievement that I appreciate so profoundly.
Well, yeah, but you said they're all. They're almost like a reference to one another. They are. I mean, they really are like. They interpret each other's work. It seems. I mean.
I feel like watching them together is a richer experience, and
yeah, for sure. But
they're all accomplishing amazing things.
But the weird thing is Road Warrior just seems like a happy-go-lucky, cheerful little action movie in comparison.
Yeah, but it still has its scenes. It still has.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. That terrified me until John Hillcoat upped the ante.
Yes, he did. He did.
Again, I was 12. Now I look at the Road Warrior and I like it. I take comfort in it. Like I take comfort in Joe versus the Volcano or something. I don't take comfort in The Road. I
don't think you're supposed to. I
No,
really
I
don't.
know.
I think we're supposed to be like Viggo Mortensen, and that is keep moving. Keep moving
know.
until we can no longer
I know, and that's
move.
the only thing holding me back from loving it, is I'm just too terrified of it. No, it's a perfectly realized movie.
Yeah.
Perfectly
Anyway.
realized. Anyway, I can't say it anymore. All right, folks, and that's all we have for today. Next time we're gonna cheer you up with a review
Police
of
Academy
3 police,
movies.
the Police Academy series with a chaser of Twilight movies.
And topped off with Cheech and Chong. Oh boy.
All right, stay tuned for our next Fabulous Film and Friends. We love you. Thank you for listening to Fabulous Film and Friends. Copyright 2024, a Bel Air Films production.